Hello and welcome to All Things Seniors. This is your host Rafiq and I'm empowering caregivers one episode at a time. In today's episode, we will discuss the key differences between home care and retirement living. And people use these terminologies very vaguely, very interchangeably. These words are being used, but there is a huge difference, right? So I'll share the difference, and in the end, I will also tell you what is my preferred option for loved ones among all the things which are available. And let me tell you first what those are, right? So number one, we will break down the two big umbrellas: home care and retirement living. Home care is where an individual, your loved one, is continuing to live in their own home. They are now getting an additional care and support, but their living arrangement doesn't change much. They have the same bedroom, they have the same restroom, they have the same kitchen. If they still drive, they have the same parking lot or parkade, right? Their home remains home and care is being introduced. This allows them to live as long as possible in their own home where they are comfortable. This is called aging in place, right? And I think aging in place is something which people talk a lot about. It has its own pros and cons. We'll talk more about that. But primarily speaking, as far as the living arrangements are concerned, the first umbrella is home care. The second umbrella is where somebody cannot continue to stay in their own home for various reasons, and we'll talk more about those reasons. In that situation where they have to come out of the home, it's downsizing, relocation, whatever the reasons, they come out of their own primary residence and now live in a facility. This retirement living facility arrangement has three big buckets, right? Number one, independent living. When somebody comes out of their own home, as much as they are downsizing, but they're still independent, right? They drive, they cook by themselves, they do their own laundry, they don't need care per se, but in a way, they would love to live in a more communal setting so that people can keep an eye on each other, and in a situation where they may need help, at least some help is readily available and they are not in their home by themselves, and if there is a fall, nobody knows kind of risk, right? So in a retirement living, the most independent option or most flexible option is independent living. In a situation of independent living, least care is provided. It is more of their own condominium per se, but with some support, and we'll talk more about what is provided. So first, independent. The second one is called assisted living, in which a little bit more care is provided. Maybe there is a healthcare aide available 24/7. Maybe there is once a day, grocery bus goes and they can hop on. This is more for people who might not be able to drive by themselves or cannot cook by themselves or need some help with medication or taking a bath. Assisted living. And then the third one is called nursing homes or personal care homes or dementia centers. This is where a lot more care is provided and a lot more hands-on support is required, right? So home care and retirement living. Once we understand what are the key differences, for us to be able to make a decision for, hey, what's best for our family and for our loved one, we need to see two components. One is the financial component and one is non-financial, more emotional, social needs, right? So let's first talk about the financial side of things. I'm an accountant. This comes naturally to me. Many people who become caregiver now, they are not only taking care of their own finances in their own life, which is never easy. Now they also have to take care of decisions like this. If they are power of attorney, they have to make a decision for mom and dad or auntie or a neighbor or whoever is the loved one. Now they have to make a decision. Oh my God, you know what? If I decide for mom to be in a independent living, the cost is different versus a nursing home. The cost is different. So what are the cost differences? Let's look at that. Home care, the first umbrella. This is the least intrusive and most cost-effective option. That is why most people start with a home care setup rather than right away moving to a retirement facility. Because think about it, if mom or dad have their own home, hopefully by the time they are in the retired years, the home is fully paid off, there is no mortgage, there is no, in a way, costs to live, like there is no rental or a mortgage cost, right? So it becomes less expensive. And the only additional expense is for a caregiver to come in and provide care. And you can tailor it, right? You can say, hey, this month I'll only get 10 hours of care. Next month, because I'm traveling, I'll get 50 hours of care to supplement the care that I am providing. As a caregiver, you can make those decisions, but the cost of the shelter is taken care of. Look at the retirement facility option. Every tier, whether it's independent living, assisted living, or a nursing home, all three, you are hiring a place. You are now paying for that shelter, which is not yours. In a way, you're renting a spot and you have to pay the rental. And once you commit to the cost, it's there. You cannot choose like, hey, just like home care, I'll just come and go. No, you commit to a place, now the cost is there. So those options are obviously a little bit more costly as far as the shelter cost is concerned. And then you can see if you need less care, independent living versus a lot more care, nursing homes. The cost is now differentiating based on the care that you take. So to begin with, shelter cost is there, top it up with the care cost, and these options of retirement facilities are way more expensive than a home care. The non-financial factors are really important. How so? Imagine my dad, right? So my mom and dad, they're both, good in their retired years. Mom is a bit more independent. Dad needs a bit more of care. I'm the primary caregiver. Mom also takes care of him a lot. But my mom is an extrovert. My mom would go out and talk to people. She would be miserable if she is all by herself, not talking to anyone. She cannot just live by herself. Maybe like me, right? We need to have our friends, our chats, right? On the contrary, my dad, he can live by himself. He can sit, he can watch TV, and he can consume that content and be by himself. For my dad, it would be easier to age in place and home care arrangement if he was by himself. But for my mom, if she was by herself, she would be miserable. She would need somebody to talk to, right? And for her, yes, a financial implication of having her in an independent facility would be a bit more, but she would have so many other people. She could have maybe a cooking setup there where she would eat cooking, and she loves cooking, right? So she could play, she could art, she could poetry, like all those things become new friends, somebody to talk to. Like even just going down for laundry and you meet 3 people, that is what my moms feed from. On the contrary, my dad don't want to talk to anybody. So as a caregiver, it is your responsibility, your job. You would know, hopefully, you would know that what are the loved one's needs. And if somebody needs, just like my mom needs that support, that community, there's somebody to talk to. Maybe an independent living where a little care is there. Yeah, a little bit more cost than home care, but that would be a better option. So look at both financial and non-financial impact. Before I go to my recommendation as to what I think should be the good option, if you are liking this content, if you think this is helpful, please subscribe and also tell me what are you liking and what would you like to know more, because when you write a comment, when you subscribe, YouTube understands that this content is meant for caregivers, right? And they will show it to other caregivers as well. Hopefully it will help many more people. My suggestion, my recommendation to everyone, including my own family, I suggested, and I'm telling you as well, start with aging in place. Try to see for the dollars to last as long as possible, right? But at the same time, keeping an eye on the emotional needs and the social needs of your loved one. The moment you see that they are now lonely, the first layer that you can add is to continue the home care setup, but add a couple of social programming. Like my dad, he goes to every Monday morning. There is a local community center. They have a seniors program, like 6 hours. Somebody will come pick him up. It's a minimal cost, but he has his whole day engaged. He looks forward to Mondays because in a way he goes out, right? He doesn't talk much, but he goes out and then he's in a different setting. So that is one layer which you can introduce, especially for people who are looking for more engagement. And every time you see that they are finding a bit lonely, look for a bit more engagement until you feel that moving now to an independent facility would be the best option. Yes, incurring a bit more cost, but then at the same time, you can talk to a financial advisor to see that now the house which becomes available, what can be done to recoup some of the cost through the use of house, either through renting or through reverse mortgage. We'll talk more about in a different episode. But the best starting point is aging in place, slowly phasing it out to independent living. And hopefully, I hope and pray that your loved one is more and for many years with you, a lot more independent, so that they don't have to rely and be dependent on others and move to assisted living. But when the time will come, your family can make the decision of slowly transitioning to assisted living. And one day the doctors will say, hey, you know what? Now it's time to move them to a personal care home or a nursing facility. And that is something usually driven by medical needs. From home to independent to assisted, it's something that you will be leading charge of. Always layer it with social programming, and hopefully these thoughts will help you in your caregiving journey. I cannot emphasize that enough, that how many times, people who are trying to provide care, they're exhausted. And my recommendation to all caregivers is that a rested caregiver is a better caregiver. So give some time to yourself and you'll be able to provide better care and love for your loved one. Thank you for today, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.